It's the summer place to be, a lush green turf, that historic grandstand, and of course the 9-furlong main track site of this coming Saturday's 146th running of the $1.6 million Travers. Hello again, everyone. Off and running on the National Racing Report, Maggie Wolfendale, Jason Blewitt on a gorgeous but quiet Monday morning here at the Spa. Glad everybody's with us as we have some top races to bring everybody from this past week, Alabama week. But I guess this show right now could be described as the calm before the storm.
Yeah, that's right. Being announced yesterday, it's going to be Saratoga from here on out until this coming Saturday, Jay, as American Pharoah was confirmed for this year's Travers. He is supposed to arrive here at the Spa on Wednesday, and everybody can catch him training at 8:45, a special time for him and the rest of the Travers contenders.
Breakfast on the porch the day before the Travers, as we have hashtag Saratoga. Make sure you hop on Facebook and Twitter and social media all week long, and we'll have the big horse, racing's 12th Triple Crown champion, working out 8:45 a.m. along with the Brave Souls, who will run against him in Saturday's Travers Stakes. More on that later. We'll break down the main contenders, but let's get to Saturday's Grade 1 Alabama, $600,000 purse. Second biggest Saturday, perhaps, or in a tie with the Whitney Day card. We break from the gate with the field of 7, and Maggie, I think the main subject or storyline going in was, would one of these 3-year-old fillies step up and become the divisional leader on the dirt? Because it has been a division basically since the wintertime that has been devoid of a clear-cut leader.
And yet the waters seem to be even muddier with the outcome of this race, because you had Carolina going in as the put-up winner of the CCA Oaks, and also I'm a Chatterbox, who looked to kind of seek revenge. But I'm a Chatterbox, as you saw, did not get away to a good start this time out for Florent Giroux. And we saw Embellish the Lace just go out there, and not necessarily on an easy lead. It was uncontested, but she set some pretty, good fractions for every quarter of a mile, I should say. You know, it wasn't easy, but she made it look so.
It's a testament, I think, to her talents and the talents of trainer Tony Dutrow, that he could take a horse, basically ease and chewed up at a wickedly hot, fast pace in the Mother Goose downstate at Belmont towards the end of June, lay her up, bring her back fresh, stretch her out in the Alabama of all races, going 1.25 miles, and for her to deliver the kind of performance she did in front of just under 40,000 in attendance here on Saturday is a credit to both the horse and the trainer Tony Dutrow. Now at this point, Javier Castellano's got that long rein. The pace has been deliberate but comfortable, and she will try to fend off the finishers in this race. Carolina, who's in between in the white cap, she may have been the biggest surprise to me out of all these horses, because quite simply she was very flat on Saturday.
She was really flat. I mean, she's put in some hard efforts every time that we've seen her this year, including her Acorn and the CC Oaks. She fought gamely down to the wire and eventually put up there, as she was impeded within the last 16th of a mile. But the thing is that Embellish the Lace was able to do this, as you said, on a loose rein, easy, all her own way, and she felt comfortable in doing so. And like you said, Tony Dutrow, an excellent job with this filly, but it'll be interesting to see if she's tested once again on the front end in a future race. Will she be able to pull off this kind of performance again? Because really, she just had everybody run off their feet, and nobody could really catch her at the end.
The water will undoubtedly get deeper for all these fillies. Basically, you're out of outside of the cotillion. You're out of major Grade 1 age-restricted competition at this point in the year, and it's on to races like the Beldame heading into the Breeders' Cup. This staff, I would imagine, for a good chunk of those horses in the Alabama. It's a division that on the main track all year has been entertaining. In my book, they've been pretty average, though, for the most part. Not to take away or disparage any of them. They're fine horses. They're just, this is not a crop of 3-year-old fillies outside of perhaps Lady Eli, the turf phenom, that I will look back and go, wow, that was a super deep crop of horses.
Right. The races have been entertaining. It's just the horses haven't really lived up to some of their billings or some of their potentials that we were hoping. You know, each race, it's a different kind of outcome and leads to a different winner in the following race. So it's a very kind of confusing division so far.
Right. If the season ended today, my vote would be for Lady Eli, and I'm glad she's doing okay. I mean, on a talent level, it's kind of a moot point, but in the talent department, she is just so much better and way more exciting than any of those horses. Would you agree?
I would totally agree, and I wish her well. I hope she's getting better and hopefully can make it back to the races probably next year.
All right, we stay with the females on the show today as we head out, as it was Beholder running against the boys. No fillies and mares have been previously 0 for 4 in the TVG Classic. This is a race that's been around for about a quarter of a century, 25, 26 runnings. Gary Stevens, what can you say? Hall of Fame trainer Richard Mandela, and this mare for the ages, Beholder, who just sat the perfect trip. She's third right now. Bayern is hooked up on the front end by a long shot, outside speed horse at Midnight Notes, and I've got to think Gary Stevens was pretty happy where he was sitting, passing the wire for the first time.
Oh, incredibly happy. I mean, with these two going 22-1 for the first opening quarter, and they did slow it down a bit, but boy, they burned each other out, but take nothing away from Beholder. The move that we'll see coming up within about a half a mile from here is utterly breathtaking. I have not seen a horse do this at least this year or in recent memory. Just the way she blew by these boys here with the utmost ease and then extended that lead. I mean, yes, I'm getting a little ahead of myself in this race here, but still, just an excellent job by her connections, by Gary Stevens, and especially Richard Mandela for the management he's done with this mare to keep her at the top of her game year in and year out. Yes, she's better in California. No, we have not seen her kind of run this spectacular race away from California. Hopefully she does it at Keeneland this year in either Breeders' Cup Distaff or Breeders' Cup Classic. But as you see here, Jay, this move just gives me chills.
I was watching this race on my NYRA.com account at a dinner Saturday night in town with a bunch of my horse player buddies, and the Ys were at the table as well. We all kind of gathered around my phone, and everybody's jaw dropped when she made that move and just inhaled Bayern and Midnight Notes and easily kicked clear. And it's not even like it's a case of Beholder starting to get a bit leg weary. She spurts away at the 3/16 pole and widens at will. This is a mare in an age, it seems, over the last decade or so. We have been treated to just some sensational female thoroughbred racehorses when you think of Azeri, Goldie Kova, Ouija Board, Zenyatta, Rachel Alexandra have the grace, and you can undoubtedly add Beholder's name to the list. And kudos to her connections in B. Wayne Hughes and Richard Mandela and Gary Stevens for stepping out of the box and really, really trying to do something extraordinary. It was great that it worked out.
I mean, how cool is this that we have this in racing, that they chose to do this with this mare, and she lived up to the hype even more so than what she was, billed to be. She was a morning line favorite. As you see, she was 3 to 5. She looked as though she was a 1 to 9 shot in winning this Pacific Classic. It was really, really special to see.
Gary Stevens, 52 years old. This won't be the first major stakes win on tonight's show that we have Hall of Fame rider Gary Stevens getting it done out at Del Mar. For Richard Mandela, the old school sort of template of a classic horseman, his 4th career win in the Pacific Classic. He also ran second with Catch a Flight. And real fast, regarding your defending Breeders' Cup Classic winner, Bayern, got involved in a hot pace, but he stopped abruptly at the 3/8 pole.
Well, Jay, if you know me, I was never Bayern's biggest fan. I mean, yes, I gave him credit where credit was due last year for his Breeders' Cup Classic win, but I just always felt he was an all-for-nothing horse, and those kind I just don't tend to be a fan of. I mean, if you're going to be good, at least be good in defeat as well, and he just isn't. He just throws in the towel.
He's really taken a step back as a 4-year-old. It would not surprise me if that was the last time Bayern ran in an actual race. We'll see what Bob Baffert does with him, and for us, Bob Baffert coming right here to the spa. We'll head back to Del Mar, field of 4, short and sweet, in Saturday's Pat O'Brien. Back here, cool breeze blowing on a Monday morning on a big Pick 6 carryover in the works. Just over 400,000 for day number 28. We hope by the time you're watching this Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. on MSG Plus, you're sitting on a stack, multi-stacks of $100 bills. But the summer up here has been terrific. The racing's been fantastic. We want everybody who's got a ticket to come out and join us this coming Saturday for Travers Day.
Oh, my gosh, yes. As Bob Baffert said when they were hinting at American Pharoah coming, if you have a Travers ticket, do not sell it because it's sold out. And make sure you hold on to it. It's it's going to be pretty crazy here. Luckily, I mean, I think with the cap, it'll make everything a little more comfortable for those attending.
50,000 here at Saratoga is a crowded day, but again, it'll be, from a logistical standpoint, bit easier to get around. I'm sure the lines won't be as long, and we hope you join us, whether you're on track or playing off track. We've got those multi-race guarantees. We'll pop those a bit later in the broadcast. We've got to get the action, however, out of the way at Del Mar. Saturday, of course, they had their biggest marquee day of the entire summer meet. A short field of 4 in the Pat O'Brien Stakes, and this was a race in which we got a very game effort on the lead in the pink out of the number 2 Appealing Tale beneath Joe Talamo.
Yeah, it was. And 4-horse races can always be so tricky, Jay. I mean, they can play out as you see on paper with Appealing Tale going to the lead and turning everybody back. But then sometimes you get these crazy paces. You get horses that you don't foresee winning just because you have such strange dynamics. But at least this one played out as it looked to be with Appealing Tale. And as you said, Joe Talamo, Peter Miller teaming up and earning a 99 speed figure for this Pat O'Brien win.
5-year-old gelding by Tail of the Cat in a sprint division out on the West Coast that seems to be wide open at this point. I really, truly believed in my heart, having watched the Triple Bend, the race we had covered on the Racing Report, in the final week of June. I had a feeling and believed Masochistic was going to kind of take control and take the reins. He did not show up with a good effort in his next start and was a complete no-show as far as not even being entered in the Pat O'Brien. So you've got Appealing Tale getting the Grade 1 victory with Joe Talamo and Peter Miller. Kobe's back in the meantime. It was Co's second choice at 2-1. Just cannot get out of the gate cleanly. It really puts him behind the 8-ball. We continue to fly along, however, much faster than Kobe's back through the first couple of furlongs as we get on to Saturday's 76th running of the Grade 2 Del Mar Handicap, purse of $250,000. And you may remember a horse running on the East Coast for Todd Pletcher, Mike Maker, and a couple of other barns named Big John B. Lengthy layoffs earlier in his career. He was more of a $25,000, $40,000 claimer. He has really found a home, Maggie, with trainer Philip D'Amato out on the West Coast, because Saturday he repeated his title defense in the Del Mar Handicap.
Yeah, and we didn't see Finnegan's Wake go forward here and play in this Del Mar Handicap, but I don't remember this horse, Jay. I'm glad you said that. I don't remember him at all, but boy, you know, it's kind of looking back to what we saw yesterday here at with the Tail of the Cat with David Jacobson and Stalwalk and Dude, these claimers that just get good for these guys. It's really cool to see, and they figure out what makes them tick, what makes them successful. And, you know, looking at this Big John B, he's just another example of that. And he earned a 98 for yesterday's performance, hard fought, down on the outside railing in the middle of the course.
And it sounds like his connections are bullish on pointing towards the Breeders' Cup turf at Keeneland. Saturday's Del Mar Handicap run at 1 mile and 3 furlongs as we see a big, smiling, triumphant Rafael Bejarano getting back to the winner's circle for owner Michael House, Philip D'Amato. And again, King's Bishop Sires have done well over the last couple races out at Del Mar. We had Appealing Tale by Tail the Cat, and Big John B is a 6-year-old gelding by Hardspun. We finish off our rolling pick 3 out at Del Mar as we get you back to Sunday's action towards the end of the program. Race number 8, in fact, we have Avanzare, the horse to beat, in fact, at crunch time in the Del Mar Mile. And once again, vintage Hall of Famer Gary Stevens aboard the number 5, Avanzare, saving as much ground as possible, angling out towards the quarter pole, and Avanzare was full of run when it counted most.
Yeah, and a bit of an upset here as we saw Balabali, who was really impressive when he first ran in California. He kind of fizzled back to 6th here. But, yeah, looking at Avanzare, Gary Stevens, as you said, had one heck of a weekend out on the West Coast. 52, but nothing stopping him. He looks like he's riding like he's 22.
Tom Proctor, the winning trainer of this 5-year-old gelding by Grand Reward, who had not run since January 31st. He was going into this race off a lengthy layoff, and for Gary Stevens, somewhere along the line, he found the fountain of youth, because tactically speaking and from a finishing standpoint, you're not going to find better riders all around, no matter what aspect of a jockey's game you're talking about. I think Gary Stevens encompasses all of them.
I can't imagine doing this at 52. I'll tell you what,
yep.
He still looks good. He's able to get down low with the knee replacement and everything. I'm in complete admiration of Gary Stevens and considering the job he's done at Del Mar. Obviously, riding on the West Coast, a little bit easier. You don't have to deal with winter. You don't have to deal with humidity. Weather's very good if you have some aged limbs, aged bones. But Gary Stevens, he deserves every accolade coming his way.
He's like a fine wine and trying to cross the street in the Hall of Fame. Maybe, just maybe, with the 6th grade ones this coming Saturday at the Spa, he'll be in town to ride one of them. We hope that's the case. Travers Day with Gary would be okay. Obviously, by the way, a big scratch, an obvious scratch in Sunday's Del Mar Handicap. It's all about the Travers preview when we come back. Back to the Spa, shades of blue out in the infield canoe. That is a Travers tradition. In fact, highlighting the previous year's winner. That's the blue, shades of blue for Mrs. Bryant. She indeed was the owner of V.E. Day, who unfortunately, however you look at it, did not dead heat with the stablemate Wicked Strong a year ago. The Jimmy Jerkins horse is up and down on the wire.
Oh, poor Jimmy. And it's funny because Centennial Farms, the owner of Wicked Strong, they're, big. They have a lot of people involved. And every time Jimmy beats Wicked Strong, he's like, oh, man. He's thinking back this year to the race that FNX beat him to.
Oh, right.
I always kind of feel bad, yeah.
Yeah, well, Jimmy's got 3 good handicap horses still around and doing okay as 4-year-olds as we check out Saturday's 146th running of the $1.6 million Travers at Saratoga. Here he is, racing's 12th Triple Crown winner. He has had one start since this Belmont Stakes win in front of 90,000 and millions more at home.
We've shown 2 races that just give me chills every single time. Beholder and this, just standing right there on the finish line, practically on the track here, Jay, watching this. Just ingrained in my memory. I will never forget it. Being a horse racing fan, people of my age, of my generation, it will go down in the history books as probably my most memorable moment.
And the superlatives, I mean, we've heard them all countless times. I mean, since this horse's 2-year-old campaign, and by the way, there's been 9 champion 2-year-olds who have come back to win the Travers the following season. Street Sense back in 2006 or 2007, excuse me, the last to do it. He was 06's 2-year-old champion. Bob Baffert 1 for 5 historically in the Travers. Is that a potential concern for you going in?
I almost feel like that's what they were waiting for, because there is that kind of apprehension, I think, with Bob, and knowing that he just hasn't done that well here at Saratoga. Obviously, point given, his last winner in this race in the Travers. So I think there's some apprehension with Bob, but he has to know that he is the best horse in the country.
Yeah, no question. Best horse in the country. Possibly. A dominating win in the Haskell. Looking forward to seeing the house packed, rocking, and for American Pharoah to strut his stuff here on Saturday. The competition. Look, this is the graveyard of favorites after all. And let's talk about a couple of horses who are pretty good. You got a Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner from last season in Texas Red, and the Belmont Stakes runner-up and Wood Memorial champ in Frosted, who both were 1st and 2nd in that order in the Jim Dandy.
I got to give credit here, and you've said it too. The job that Keith DeSormo has done with his horses, especially bringing him over here, and the job he's done with this horse, he's been so patient. Obviously, our Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner last year went through a kind of succession of minor injuries, but Keith was patient with him. He didn't rush him. He didn't try to force him into an early, Derby Trail campaign. He took his time. Now he's, participating in the latter half of those 3-year-old races, and it's paying off. And this is one good-looking horse. I really do like Texas Red a lot.
Son of a Fleet Alex, a bargain basement purchase. They paid around $50,000 for him as a yearling. He's got the Breeders' Cup win, and we'll see if he can continue to improve and potentially peak as he steps up against American Pharoah. Frosted, in the meantime, for a white-hot Kieran McLaughlin, who's batted about 35-40% all summer long, will go out and run his usual good race. How about John Sheriffs? This is a very conservative trainer. Another horseman we have a world of respect for, but the fact that he takes the Curlin winner, Smart Transition, who's in the hot pink silks, 4 wide or so, towards the outside, the fact that he puts this horse into the Midsummer Derby against a field as good as the one that's shaping up here Saturday, I think speaks volumes to his confidence in Smart Transition going forward.
But then again, he's been somewhat patient with him and kind of brought him along. And I also think the fact that this is the distance that is, the 1.25 miles, this horse will excel at that kind of distance. He's just that big galloping type. I do like him. I think he's one that's kind of developing later in the season, and he might be a force to be reckoned with, especially looking forward to his 4-year-old campaign.
And Dave Grenning tweeting right before we came on the air for taping the show Monday morning, Irad Ortiz Jr. will be aboard. Smart transition for John Cherish. Junior Alvarado was up in that curling victory. Doesn't hurt these days picking up Irad right here at the spa.
Goodness, no. So, yeah, Irad's just killing him here.
43 wins with entering Monday's card with that big pick 6 carryover. Speaking of big, how do you like these 3 multi-race guarantees fitting of a day we will run the Midsummer Derby with the Triple Crown champion? First race post, 11:45 a.m. $400,000 guaranteed pick 5 rings in the card. Gates, by the way, open up at 7 a.m. The pick 6, $250,000 guaranteed. That'll kick off in race number 6, and it all leads to that $1 million, a cool mill the minimum, in that guaranteed pick 4 that will culminate in the 146th running of the $1.6 million Travers Stakes at a mile and a quarter. 6 grade 1s, including the Travers, on this coming Saturday's card.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to be all grade 1s.
Right.
As I can work out, and some other stakes as well, graded stakes too. So looking forward to it. It's going to be a long, fun, great racing kind of day.
It's going to be an awesome week. This is what we live for. The game is a part of us. It runs through our blood, and we hope you feel the same way. In fact, if you're watching the show, you probably feel the same way. Fast and furious we go as we check out Saturday's Troy Stakes. A short field, much like the Pat O'Brien, albeit this was a turf race. A very good, resolute horse, though, gets the money in Shore Runner, who you will see him angled to the outside. He has got the sort of the orange and green stripes on his jockey's cap with Kendrick Carmouche, and this horse will just lower his body to the ground, and he just wants to get the win.
Yeah, that, as I've said, that's one of my favorite things to watch a horse do, is when they're asked, they lower and they really get into that stride and extend themselves, kind of like a fast sports car. You know, when it takes off, it lowers itself and accelerates, is exactly what Shore Runner does. And he's now 3 for 3 for his current connections, and I mean, he's just really, really good right now. Jay, I think he's a horse in this division that's probably the leader. I don't think that the horse on the rail showed up with his best effort. I mean, he got away with pretty slow fractions, and considering those slow fractions for Shore Runner to still kick home like he did, just speaks to how well he's doing right now.
And that horse on the rail, Something Extra, who is coming to us north of the border, shipping south from Woodbine, and he did not show up with his A game for whatever the reason on Saturday. But of the Midwest turf sprinters and East Coast turf sprinters we've seen over the last couple of months, I do agree with you that Shore Runner at this point in the summer is the best of the best. Joe Sharp's done a nice job, claimed this horse 3 back for a good chunk of change, 62.5, and Shore Runner won his 4th consecutive race. He gets a little cooling off, little water in the winner's circle beneath Kendrick Carmouche. Also on Saturday, it wouldn't be a Saturday, especially in Alabama undercard, without 2-year-olds. We had a dirt race we'll show you, and we also had the boys going long on the turf. Yellow Blue Silks, Matthew Scherer, the winning owner, George Weaver, the winning trainer, and here's a 2-year-old colt by Lonhro named Isotherm.
Yeah, Lonhro, an Australian stallion that has sired quite a few horses here in the States. So, you know, Isotherm made his debut on the dirt. You kind of figured, well, that's probably not where he wants to run. So, obviously, going long on the turf, it seemed to suit him. He's a big, good-looking colt here. And Matthew Scherer having a very good Saratoga for a guy who hadn't had much success here prior, has a lot of horses with a lot of different trainers, and is winning with all of them. 5
wins through Sunday afternoon. We'll see what he did here on Monday. But 5 victories for Matthew Scherer, who's more of a new kid on the block regarding thoroughbred ownership. I do like his Twitter. He's worth a follow, and he's got that big picture of Holy Bull. So he's okay in my book for the rest of time. And here we go with Isotherm, Jose Lascano, the winning rider. Decent effort in defeat really fast from Life Imitates Art, who seemed a little uncomfortable or green inside. What was that? You think he's a weirdo?
I think he's a weirdo. No, I think he tries to intimidate the other horses. At first race, it seemed as though he was green, kind of head all over the place. So they put the blinkers on, and it seemed as though all he was content with was trying to intimidate and bite Isotherm with his head, you know, cocked to the outside towards him. So I think he's got some mental issues to possibly
I'll
work
be
out.
looking next time he runs for a potential Savage. I'd stay far away from him. Let's move on to Saturday's 8th race. This kicked off the guaranteed late pick 4. The pool was huge. And speaking of huge, they paid a lot of money for a 2-year-old colt by Discreetly Mine named Shake of Shakes. $330,000 in May to be precise. Wesley Ward, Eric Consell, and how about this effort from Shake of Shakes, who's blowing apart this field.
This was probably the most impressive workout I saw at the Timonium sales from this guy. No wasted action whatsoever. We saw him display it here at Saratoga. This is a horse moving forward that I think will be very, very dangerous. He'll probably just be in that sprinter kind of ranks because he went forward to the lead and just held off everybody and just extended that, and under wraps here too. And
look out, Wesley Ward has picked up some deep-pocketed clients, Coolmore mainly, and we've seen Wesley's success with cheaper kind of auction buys and precocious, speedy 2-year-olds. But now that he's got a bankroll to play with, they paid $330K for this guy again. I think Wesley Ward even tougher down the road with those 2-year-olds. Let's wrap up the show. Look back at Sunday's 8th race, 2-year-old fillies, and the day after the Alabama, they got to strut their stuff. It was a sprint on the dirt at 5.5, dominated by first-time starters, and one firster in those classic gold and yellow Claiborne silks took a lot of play for Christophe Command. Her name is With, and she was very professional in her first start.
And talk about classic Claiborne. The pedigree on this filly is just that. By Blame out of a pulpit mare by the name of Extent, so she's a half-sister to Size here, who was a pretty good filly herself, and as you said, I think the longer the better, too. I think this girl's got a bright future ahead of her.
Good to see Christophe Command picking up some horses, 2-year-olds mainly for Claiborne Farm. This is the first one I remember, a Claiborne homebred with Christophe, and it all worked out here as Jose Ortiz comes back to the winner's circle on a sunny and warm Sunday afternoon at Saratoga Racecourse. Christophe, by the way, went 2 for 2 on day number 27. And that'll pretty much sound the buzzer here on the show. We've got American Pharaoh coming to us 8:45 a.m. Friday, breakfast on the porch the day before the Travers. That should not be missed.
No, it won't. I wouldn't be surprised if we have about 20,000 people out here to see the Pharaoh train. So it's going to be an exciting week.
All right, that'll do it. Have a great Travers week, a great Travers day. Enjoy American Pharaoh at the summer place to be. Javier will take us out. Have a great night.